Is this like a video game?
Sorta. But it uses the most powerful information processor in the world. Your brain.
DragonStrike is a board game spiritual successor to a video game based off a series of novels based off of a tabletop setting created for Dungeons & Dragons. And that is as far as I am willing to follow that train of causality backwards. If we truly wanted, we could take this way farther about how D&D's based off of Tolkien and Tolkien's based off of mythology, but I don't want that headache. So, the original DragonStrike, which is this point on the causality chain, was a 1990 Dungeons & Dragons flight simulator. Yes, you did hear that correctly. Wacky though that may be, it actually made a lot of sense for what it was. It was based off of the War of the Lance, a massive conflict in D&D's Dragonlance setting and the Dragonlance novels that popularized the setting. It was one of D&D's higher powered settings, with heroic and villainous dragon riders largely deciding the fate of the world not by land, but by air. And in this setting, the forces of good were always on the back foot. The evil dragon riders managed to build up their forces and largely blitzkrieg the world with their armies. They raced across the free world, slaughtering and enslaving thousands on their quest for world domination. Eventually, a small band of heroes was able to help bring about the return of the good-aligned dragons to the world. In the original Dragonlance module, you are these heroes, but we don't really think of the setting like that these days, and this is because the Dragonlance novels made a fictional cast of characters to play that role that were so popular and beloved that it's actually kind of hard to envision yourself as one of the heroes of the Lance. Instead, we remember characters such as Tanis Half-Elven, the Mihir brothers, and Lorana Kanan. Now, once they succeed at bringing back the good dragons, the Knights of Solamnia end up reforming into a dragon riding force, which obviously doesn't have great results immediately, being that they are up against a veteran force. Meanwhile, they got these dragons a couple weeks ago. In the original DragonStrike video game, you play as one such knight. Canonically, it's written in the manual that you had 2 weeks of training for this, and now you are shipped against the elite and veteran forces of evil dragon riders. It is not a power fantasy, it is hell. It is very difficult, and it also really reinforces this wonderful tone. I described it in my original DragonStrike video as essentially Dragon Stalingrad. And this is a fantastic setup. Even so, this struggle and the odds stacked against you really makes the game feel worth it. Let's remember that even though DragonStrike was largely a game of aerial dogfighting, it was also a game where you got to joust on dragonback. And as a big fan of the movie A Knight's Tale, I was obviously excited. I especially love the finale where William charges at the enemy and shouts his own name. I spent a bit too long attempting to replicate it.
I think he's getting worse. He is getting worse.
The difficulty, the struggle, the odds stacked against you, it all comes together in the end to form this incredible sense of accomplishment. This is one of the examples of why people love difficult video games. Even so, the game was not without flaw. The biggest thing keeping it down was the tech. This was still a 1990s game. And despite the quality of the writing and the tone, it does kind of lose something when you're up against origami dragons. Not to mention how numerous levels have paragraphs of text describing how you're fighting over large clashing armies on the ground, but like, look, where are they? They're not there. There's no clashing army. Ultimately, it was the best goddamn dragon flight simulator anyone was going to have any chance of making in 1990, but the problem was, 1990, probably too early to have made that game. Westwood actually had a chance of turning this around with their 1992 port to the NES, which was in actuality just a remake. They scaled things down to instead be a shoot-'em-up. And while this reduced scale in theory could have given them the opportunity to actually land that tone that their writing had, they instead stripped away that cool tone. And while it was in fact a pretty competently made shoot-'em-up, it still failed to live up to what the game had originally promised. It still left a bad taste in my mouth that they ended up dropping the grim storytelling of the original. DragonStrike as a franchise was in this weird position where they had this incredible premise and they never actually managed to achieve it. But this was not the last attempt at it. There was, in fact, a third. TSR, the company that owned D&D at the time, took it upon themselves to make their own DragonStrike in board game form. Now this time, with a format even more scaled down, surely this time they will get the tone right. But instead, they just kind of took the name DragonStrike and made a wholly unconnected game. The board game DragonStrike is kind of just TSR's answer to Hero Quest. I'm not gonna knock the game, people really like the game, it's a classic, but it isn't really DragonStrike. I'm not really gonna analyze it in this video because it's not got very much to do with the franchise, but I wouldn't be doing my job as a YouTuber if I didn't tell you that it came with a VHS lore tape.
Is this like a video game?
Sorta. But it uses the most powerful information processor in the world. Your brain. Little do they know of the strange events that are descending upon them.
Who dares disturb my banquet?
Tonight's omens bode ill.
Fight valiantly! I shall return.
Very well.
Up there! They're killing all the gods! Cleric, use your magic!
Death Knight, heal, return to peace!
Now pay close attention, because the information you're about to hear could mean the difference between life and death.
Squander your only chance to save your
He
kingdom.
speaks the truth.
Teraptus' power grows stronger with every beat of our hearts.
Teraptus is a wizard of guile and charisma and promised a golden age, and many fools followed. He's truly and deeply evil. Observe the tooth.
Okay, we've got that out of our system, right? Okay, let's move on. So if you haven't noticed, this video, it's a bit more board gamey than my usual content, which is somewhat dangerous being that this is largely a video games channel. The algorithm probably isn't gonna like this one, so if you'd like to support the channel and to ensure that we can cover more varied content, then please take a second to like the video. And also, leave a comment. What's your favorite board game? Personally, huge Space Hulk fan. I love the pain, man. I just love the pain. The world moved on, and DragonStrike was left as a bizarre little forgotten early 90s sub-franchise. It just kind of left everyone's memories that the franchise that brought us Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights had once been the kind of IP that brought us Dragonflight combat sims. And that left DragonStrike as a game with an unfulfilled promise for 30 years. As I'm sure you've heard if you watched my DragonStrike NES video, and if you just have eyes and look at my set today, DragonStrike is back as a board game. But unlike the last time it was a board game, this time it is actually about Dragonflight combat. This is a spiritual successor of the same name. It's not an official Wizards of the Coast product. It's inspired by the dragon combat of the original, but it is this time disconnected from the Dragonlance setting. DragonStrike as a board game picks up where the original left off. It has done an amazing job at adapting the soul and character and just the gameplay in general, from the art to the breath weapons to the tricky big brain flight maneuvers you would need in order to figure out how to line up attacks with other dragons that were also in aerial movement with you. Seriously, it was hard to line up attacks in the original, and the board game actually does a really good job of approximating it. You need to be smart if you want to hit your enemy. Now, this is a sponsored video. Now, this isn't the first board game company who has reached out to me and asked me to make an exclusive board game video for them. But this is the only one I ever actually felt was worth putting in front of your eyeballs. I believe in this project, I love this franchise, and I know that the developers are passionate about all the same kinds of things that we are on this channel. Plus, end of the day, I don't know, I just kind of feel personally responsible for this franchise, and even though this is a small channel, I definitely have some of the larger stuff out there covering it. This is my franchise, I need to protect it, I need to preserve its legacy. The DragonStrike board game is up on Kickstarter right now. And this isn't the kind of Kickstarter where they want your money and then they're going to make the game. As evidenced by everything surrounding me right now, the game's pretty much done. They're really just gathering the funds for the manufacturing at this point. Comes with a huge playmat, high quality figurines, and a great playset of materials to really help you visualize the complexities of dragon combat. This is a good, high-quality Kickstarter from a dev that truly cares about the IP. Now, DragonStrike is hardly a rules-light board game, but it does hit that ideal gameplay style of having just enough crunch without getting overcomplicated. You can pick the game up pretty quickly. Now, rather than getting bogged down in niche board game mechanics, I figure it's better to just show you this game. So let me tell you about my time with it. I was given the honor of trying out DragonStrike for the first time with my friend Crow and Alvaro, one of the devs. Now, keep in mind, this is all alpha footage. Things you see on screen are subject to change, of course, and also, this is the tabletop simulator version, not the actual physical board game. Very quickly, we started learning the rules. DragonStrike mostly runs on kind of card-based movement, where there's a bunch of preset maneuvers you can choose from every turn. The objective that we played with in my playtest versions was quite simple. Compete against the other side to see who can get the cart and get away with it. Crow began somewhat widely spread out, whereas I decided to start out with my dragons clustered together. Moves in this game are simultaneous. You flip the timer and you each choose your cards. Then, when they get flipped, the side that has the edge will move first, then you move. Then breath attacks are decided. And what's neat is all of these breath attacks have unique patterns and effects and damage spreads. I very quickly make a grave error. Misjudged, and my red is going right into the storm cloud.
Uh-oh.
One success.
Yep.
Okay,
So
I
you
take
gain-
1 damage.
Yes, I am going to frost breath him.
Perfect.
Oh, no! All 4
Obliterated.
successes.
Wow, okay, 4 damage, that's a dead red. So I end up having to spend the rest of the game with 1 dragon versus 2, basically due to my own stupid actions. I do my best though. I'm skirmishing, I'm staying careful, I'm, darting in unexpected ways, and I do manage to keep myself in the game. Finally getting tired of trying to pin me down, Crow just goes for the cart with his dragons. And when he does this, I see into the Matrix, and I know what I have to do.
No way. You're gonna do something insane, huh?
And we land our dragons on the exact same tile, which means, oh yes, it's a joust.
3
What
damage.
stat am I rolling?
Okay.
So I believe what just happened this turn was William!
I can't believe I just got jousted on the William SRD channel.
It ultimately ended up a little bit anticlimactic though, because my joust, while heavily damaging Crow's dragon, didn't manage to finish him off. And that bastard races off screen. With Alvaro teaching us the rules and playing our match, the whole thing clocked in at 90 minutes. Once you know how to play, the games are pretty short, and you can play a bunch in one evening. The rules are quite clean, and I did find it was appropriately hard to pin other dragons down. It's very much a game of dogfighting where the real skill is in figuring out where your enemies are going to be. The skill ceiling's quite high in this game. Game 2 began much like the first, but with an additional player. We did 2 teams of 2 each of us having 2 dragons. That makes it a 4x4. Rounding out the cast, we brought on my friend Jordan. And I gotta say, in this game mode, holy shit, there are so many dragons. To help keep track of them, we decided to name them. Crow, what are you naming your dragons?
Well, I was already coming up with a backstory for both of my dragons, and I like to work forward. Like I'll start with the backstory first, and the name will come to me from a series of different dragon-inspired media.
Crazy, because my blue one is named Ferda, and my yellow one and my white one is named Boys.
My silver's definitely. I wrote this character based off of my father, George Clooney. So. And then the other one is he can be Bofa.
Bofa what?
These dragons. It was then, early on, that some tactical trash talk was deployed.
Will, have you ever heard of the Mind Dragon?
I feel like I'm about to.
Mind Dragon D's nuts?
The start is pretty by the numbers, and Crow walks us through his plan.
You know what? I'm going deep. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm going real deep.
Okay.
Wait, can we even roast them? We have like nothing but like ice and like lightning and poison.
Yeah, have you ever been wet and then do you see what happens to things that are wet and have electrical current pass through them?
Oh. Wait, but it's ice though. It's not water. It's not like I'm a water dragon.
It's not like it's gonna sustain itself in the atmosphere, Jacob. It's 38 degrees outside.
Wait, we canonically know what what the degrees are outside.
Yeah, it's canonically, it's a very hot day.
Now the 4-player variant really speeds things up, and that's impressive because the 2-player version really wasn't like it was slacking or boring or slow-paced or anything. But with 8 dragons on the board, there is a lot of skirmishing, lots of clashing, many dragons, and many more hits. Now the game's fortunate enough that it usually takes more than one hit to actually kill a dragon, which meant that we were mostly just damaging each other for a long time, and it took a bit before we started losing dragons. There were constant happenings, and a lot of friendly fire too. Eventually, dragons started to drop like flies, and the battlefield began to dwindle. And all those remaining dragons were increasingly dinged up. Nevertheless, there were still enough pieces on the board that it was unsafe to get the cart. And with this incredibly fast-paced board game gameplay, our brains started to get a little bit wonked, and we began to have a nice lore conversation.
You don't like the appeal of a can of baked beans atop a piece of wheat?
For some reason, I'm
That-
just weird like that. I guess I don't like that.
And later on into the game, Crow ends up completely turning the tables on me compared to last game. This time, it was his turn to see into the Matrix.
Love it.
William. Oh, William.
And
You
then
played straight into my hand.
the other side.
So, do you see what White's doing, William?
I
He's
do
going
see what
right
White is
on
doing.
top of you, and I'm faster.
Wait, what?
Oh, wow.
Oh, no! No!
Two successes as well.
When 2 successes happen, so if you look at the chart, it says that you do 4 damage to each other, right?
We both kill each
We both just explode.
And they're out.
2 dragons enter, no dragons leave.
After the death of Clooney, only Bofa remains.
Are you gonna shoot or not?
Oh, I'm gonna shoot this idiot.
Okay.
I'm not a bogey, I'm just a dragon.
So William, we're gonna
Just a
dodge.
little guy.
Just a little guy.
Little
and it's my
guy.
birthday. I'm a little birthday guy. Oh,
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
two
Aw.
of them. Okay.
Nice and crispy.
Not Bofa. You can't do this to Bofa. Fortunately, after this, Alvaro takes pity and passes me one of his dragons to control. The battle continues, and this time I managed to keep my dragon alive. And in the end, it's only Crow remaining, left against us two. Crow has a real shot at getting out of this thing, though. Crow sets up one last stand, one final maneuver to see if he can turn the tide.
You go first. So you go 2 forward and turn around, right?
Yep.
All right. Yep.
Yep, because you have fatigue. You roll 1 die.
Okay.
And you need a success. Or you die. 2, 3, go. Ah!
Oh. And he fucking biffs it. He fails his flight check.
Wait, what?
Yeah. No success is 1 fatigue and 1
Let's
wound.
go! And his dragon falls out of the sky. Listen, never trust a bird to be good at flying. The very last match was quite exciting, actually. I now had a physical copy of this, so damned if I wasn't gonna give it a test. I drove 2 hours away to go see Jordan from the last game in person. We're gonna roll some dice.
I hate rolling dice.
You came to the wrong table.
Oh, no. You know, my first thought looking at this is that there's going to be some absolute maniacs who play this game by just top-decking maneuvers.
We move these pieces around, which we didn't expect when we were playing the digital version, but these things are big, meaty game pieces.
No kiss.
And unfortunately, right out of the gates, I'm already kind of bumbling.
Rotates facing. Why did I do that?
And even worse, I continue to misplay at every opportunity. At a certain point, we start to find something kind of amusing about the reference pages.
We're ordering our meal of death.
Yes, I would like 1 poison breath directly into this area, and it will attack the white dragon.
I actually have allergies. You can't do that.
Trying to turn things around, I deploy psychological warfare.
It's over. I have the high ground.
I don't know that means what you think it means.
It means I have the high ground. It's over.
We are both on dragons.
And I have
We're
the
fighting
edge.
in a 3-dimensional plane.
Listen, I brought this board game here. Do you have the instruction manual?
Unfortunately, it's not enough, and I still get got.
You pull a sick f***ing 180.
You did a full 180.
I did a full...
What's the difficulty on that?
Oh, it's rough. Read 'em and weep.
He did it. He just f***ing 360 no-scoped me.
The game continues. I haven't lost anything yet, but I keep getting dinged. Feeling confident, Jordan goes for the cart, and I do my one clever move of the game by dropping an ice bomb right beside it. Regardless, it's not enough, and things continue to go poorly for me, but kind of poorly for me in the way things normally go for a YouTuber.
I'm going to douse you in toxicity. How would you like to respond?
I don't usually reply to those comments.
Attempting to bring the game to a close, Jordan kills my dragon and his in one breath attack after they're both wounded from a deadly melee pass.
Yeah, remember, your dragon is there too, inside. We're on the same tile.
You think I give a f***?
He then begins to flee with a cart, and I give chase, but his clever maneuvers mean that he dekes me out, and he gets away. The game was done. As you may unfortunately have noticed, I don't appear to be very good at DragonStrike. Listen, I don't have to be good at this, I just think the dragons are neat.
So that was DragonStrike. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you end up throwing a couple bucks at the Kickstarter to pick up your own copy. It's a lovely game, and I'm honestly honored to have been allowed to help represent the launch. And with this is probably goodbye to DragonStrike as an IP, unless Wizards of the Coast finally stops fumbling their video game license. But being that they managed to lose Larian, I don't have a lot of confidence there. But fortunately, I can unironically, uncritically endorse this game as the legacy of the old DragonStrike video game. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope to see you next time.